Time to open the gates of product reviewing hell, as today I'm going to be taking a look at another Doctor Who 3.75 product. I bet you thought I would never be saying those words again. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Argos exclusive Into the Dalek Time Zone and Figure Collection set, also known as the Dalek Value set. I would also just like to remind everybody at this point that the recommended retail for this set was £49.99, 50 quid. Value set. Happily, I did not buy this for £49.99. I in fact got it for £6.99 because absolutely nobody on the planet wanted it, and Argos had it on reduce, of course, because, as I say, they probably had about 50,000 of them left, and they're still wanting to get rid of them to this day. I in fact got this back in December. It is now August. That's how long it's took me to actually get round to filming this video, because it's essentially going to be your worst products 3 video, because I think that this essentially deserves a video of its own, because as you can see, it is extremely high quality with its lovely figures and deformed Clara as per usual, and a delightful cardboard time zone. What else could you want in life? Probably something that isn't this. So generally the box is exactly the same to what we've seen before in the 3.75 line. Absolutely horrible. We get the blue, orange and yellow returning once again, Doctor Who logo at the top, 5 action figures, exclusive Dalek hoverbout, that's apparently exclusive, we'll get to that in a little bit. Then we have the 5 figures available, includes exclusive moving Rusty. They're really trying to sell this set, aren't they? Then we have the title of the set at the bottom, a lovely image of the set once again, and then we have a delightful bubble in the corner that says, plus amazing Starship Aristotle Time Zone playset. Amazing. That's amazing. Good joke, character. Then, of course, on the bottom, we get some company tat, as per usual, and at the side of the box, once again, an image of the set. And we have the details about where you can buy this from Argos. So if you're currently taking note of that to buy one for yourself, please do reevaluate your life choices. Then, of course, on the back of the box, you get more information, as per usual, along with combined with other sets for even bigger adventures. And then, once again, reevaluate your life and seek help. Then we have an image of the set, as well as also available a lovely lineup of every single thing that I've reviewed so far in this line, bringing back some delightful memories of the counselling that I'm still seeking, because these things quite frankly stress me out. So that is the box generally, and we're going to need to be incredibly careful, because this is of course a collector's item, meaning that I damage the box whatsoever, then it does lose value. So just taking everything out, taking a look at some of the beautiful things on the inside now. First we get the actual time zone itself. We'll get onto building that in a little bit. You have Rusty, that for some reason isn't in a bag or anything, is just kind of there, lurking about. All the others deserve bags. I wonder why he doesn't. I will plonk him over there, and then he can just sit, wondering why he exists. We get a lovely little thing of pegs, because that's probably the most high quality thing actually in this box. But I need the scissors, because everything else is in fact trapped in, except that, which we'll get onto that in a bit as well. So taking a look at the rest of the stuff, there we go, snip, 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 there we go. That took a few attempts more than it should have. You have the hoverbout itself that's now red, yay. You have the floor thing, which once again is tied into the actual box. Oh god, did I rip it then? Oh no, maybe not. There we go, just ripping that out as so. We have the floor of the actual time zone itself, which we'll be building, as I say, in a little bit. Quickly trying to snip you off. I'm going to try and be careful with these Daleks, because not going to lie, if any figures from the 3.75 line are actually decent, then it's probably the actual Daleks. There we go. Dalek number 1, I'm going to name him Bobatron. Here we have Bobatron Mark 1. Here we have Bobatron Mark 2. It's the black version, also known as Dalek Sec, or Black Dalek, as it was previously labelled in the line. At the very bottom, we of course get our delightful Doctor and companion this time round. It's everybody's favourite, Jenna and Peter. Taking her out of her bag once again and letting out all of the evil. I did in fact quite like this figure on the original release. I can recall, I think, giving it a pretty decent review, or at least as good as a review can get for a 3.75 figure. Oh. Well, her arm's flicked off. That's a brilliant start. I'm pretty sure that happened with the other figure as well. So here we have Clara, now sort of half an armless. There we go. That's a sight and a half, isn't it? So the first figure up for inspection is, of course, the Doctor himself, the 12th Doctor, Mr. Peter Capaldi. Now, I've already reviewed this figure in the past. I did like a whole 12-minute review of this gorgeous figure, and it still has exactly the same flaws. It is pretty much exactly the same. I will be doing a little bit of a comparison in a bit, but as you can see, this one has a little bit of a special feature where both of its pupils are looking up to the right, which is a little bit odd. He looks a little bit shy. It's almost like it's a shy 12th Doctor figure, or one that's sort of debating something very, very difficult. But yeah, he's a rather unusual figure. Same problems generally. However, the costume is still sort of alright, as you can see. There isn't really too much to it. At the very top, we get the white shirt there with a few nice details on the buttons and the collar nicely done. Then we get the cardigan, which has also been sort of nicely done with a little bit of texture on there as well, with a few buttons and things. The Crombie coat is this time a little bit more glossy from what I can see. It seems to have a few more creases and things on, which is nice to see. However, it's still made of your average cheapish plastic. And then, of course, on the inside, the main thing that the 12th Doctor in the early half of his era was known for, the lovely red lining, is actually not present again. So yeah, it's one of those things that is probably one of the biggest parts of the 12th Doctor, and they forget to include it. Ah, dear. And then, of course, at the very bottom, we do get the trousers out with a little bit of creasing on. And as per usual, the incredible flexible limbs, as you can see, that probably, if you put a little bit of force on them, they will, in fact, snap. So, yeah, that's incredibly healthy. Look at that there. That lovely broken leg action that looks a little bit weird. I'm going to stop that now, because it's disturbing me. But, yeah, then, of course, at the very bottom, we get his tiny little shoes, once again, with a few little paint apps and things on there. So, yeah, a little bit of a comparison now. This is the original one. I'm pretty sure that I've thrown him at a door quite a few times now. He looks incredibly sad, and he's got a scuffed nose. And then you have this one, the new one. As you can see, there's not really much in it. His is probably the most depressing look on this channel ever. I honestly don't understand why they decided to make all the 12th Doctor figures generally look miserable, because even just staring at these through the camera lens, it just makes me feel a little bit sad, to be honest, because both of them, they just have zero expression whatsoever. That one's just shy, and that one's just, I don't even know, contemplating something very, very deep. But yeah, they're just both, they look like the most depressing twins in the world. And that one doesn't even stand up. Do you flick very far? Oh, that was a fairly good flicker. Bonus points for that. I just realised I'm going to detract those bonus points because it's now marked my backdrop, so that's incredibly annoying and worrying at the same time as to why the paint can literally be flicked off onto any surface. So yeah. Quality. So we've had the Doctor, now let's have the companion. It's the Impossible Girl, who can't stand up. It's, of course, Clara Oswald in her delightful Time of the Doctor outfit. Not the Into the Dalek one, because they couldn't be bothered making a variant of the figure. But yeah, I do believe that this figure was, in fact, released before the one in the actual wave, which led to a little bit of an increase in buys on this one. However, I waited for the single carded version because I didn't fancy paying £50 for this whole box set just for this figure, and I was right to, because this figure was then reduced at a later date. But yeah, this one, once again, not really too much going on. I do, in fact, rather like the costume. I think that has been rather well done. Once again, we get the blouse at the top there with some nice details on the buttons and the collar pieces. That has been nicely done. The cardigan also has some nice details, to be honest. Some decent creasing in there to make it look very much like a cardigan, along with some nice detailing of the buttons as well, which have just been replicated with a little bit of a white dot there. And then we, of course, have the mini skirt dress thing at the bottom. Once again, this has actually also been done rather well, to be honest. We get a few creases and things on there, along with the printed design there of a few sort of black checkered things, which I don't quite know what they are. And then also towards the side there, we do get that little chain thing coming from the pocket that's on the other release as well. So generally a very good representation of the costume. At the very bottom, we just get some black legs to replicate that of tights. And then also at the very bottom, we get her tiny little boots, which have been given a nice glossy paint app. So generally overall for the costume, to be quite honest, it has always been a pretty decent costume. I think that for the scale, it has been rather well done. It's just a shame that the head lets it down there. It looks a little bit drugged up, to be quite honest. She's got massive bags under her eyes, massive bags under her mouth, massive bags everywhere, to be quite honest. She's a little bit weird looking. She's got her giant eyes with her giant pupils, her concerned eyebrows, which look rather good, to be honest. And they have the lips, which have also been painted rather well. They're nicely red and sort of glossy to make it look like she's got makeup on. But even the makeup isn't fixing her god-awful look. But yeah, we've got some ears there as well that have sort of been sculpted rather well. I think that by far this is probably the better sculpt for Jenna Coleman. But once again, a big story for this line that is repeated over and over again. The sculpt is pretty decent, but it's the paint apps that let it down, and that is something very much prominent with this figure, as I said, she looks a tad drugged up. But then, of course, at the side, taking a look at the hair, that has also been done rather unusually, having a little bit of a glossy feel there. It's brown with a few highlights in, and it looks a little bit like it's been sort of rubbed in a massive tin of oil. Just have a little bit of articulation as well. The head just sort of go 360 if you force it, but it'll no doubt pop off. There we go. Look at that for a disturbing angle. How creepy. But yeah, we also have waist articulation in there as well, and I do believe if this is anything like the original version, it can also pop off as so, and so can her arm. It's a little bit like one of those things on magic shows where somebody just magically walks along with no head or torso, and they're carrying like a trolley thing or something like that. But yeah, I'm going to put that over there as a symbol of the great quality of how good these figures are. There we go, standing proud Next up, we have Rusty. Once again, I have the other version of this figure because virtually every single figure in this set has been released by itself. However, this is a rather unusual one. I did in fact quite like the original Rusty that had the non-electronic feature. It has a lot of nice details, and I'm not even going to lie, it is a pretty nice figure. It has been replicated rather well. We've got the skirt there with all the different paint apps on. As you can see, all the different scuff marks and the different sort of rust detailing. We also have a few sections there that have been took out, much like how Rusty had in the actual TV show. The upper half has all the different slats and things with all nice details of the screws and the different panels, giving it a really nice depth. Unfortunately, the gun has the same problem as the original version, where due to it having this giant cog thing around it, it tends to be a lot bigger than the guns actually are in the TV show itself, meaning that it's literally about the same length as the manipulator arm, which is a little bit annoying. But speaking of that, it also has a little bit of a detail on there of a random section, once again, much like how Rusty had in the actual program. Unfortunately, don't know why they've done it, but the pupil has returned to the giant sort of format that we got with the original Dalek in Wave 1. But yeah, that's still okay. I can sort of forgive them for that. And generally, we've got a little bit of rust and wires and stuff going on at the top there as well, looking rather nice, along with all the piping and things coming around the figure. So yeah, generally overall, a rather nice one. I can't really go wrong with them, unless you put toothbrushes in the bottom, like how they did with one random wave of them that makes random noises that if you shut your eyes and let your imagination sort of go somewhere else to a dark place, you'll probably think, that sounds a little bit weird. If we just pop him on the surface, he does move around a little bit, as you can see. I don't know what exactly it's meant to do. This is a pretty flat surface, to be honest, yet it is still kind of struggling, and it's just sort of going around in a little bit of a very slow circle to give the idea of it patrolling or something like that, but it doesn't exactly work. I think that it works on some surfaces a little bit better, but yeah, as I say, the noise is a little bit loud, and I think that after a while, the novelty sort of wears off of it just gliding around, doing nothing with its life. There, a little bit of a comparison now to the original Rusty that I reviewed on this channel about 2 or so years ago now. This is the one that's non-electronic. I do believe it was available in Wave 3, if I can remember rightly from these figures, but yeah, it's a rather nice figure once again. However, the rust and stuff is a little bit to a minimum, as you can see, especially on this lower skirt piece there. There isn't really too much going on. There isn't much going on the slats either, and yeah, it's generally your average Dalek, once again, with the rusty parts applied. Unfortunately, the head on mine does seem to be incredibly bad, as you can see. I don't know if I brought that up on the review, but if you just tilt it to the side there, it seems to be on a little bit of a wonky angle, and the pupil is a little bit better, so at least that's something good. However, bringing in the latest version, you can quite obviously see that this one is a lot more rusty, and as well as a lot more orange. It kind of looks like a Dalek that has been affected by Iron Brew or Tango or something like that. It is a little bit weird. I don't quite know why this one is incredibly rusty, hence why it's called Rusty the Dalek, but yeah, I think that this is a much more calmer version of probably what it actually looked like in the story. And then, of course, finally for figures, we get 2 more Daleks in here as well, because why not? It's not like we've had so many Daleks in this line already, and I've reviewed pretty much every single one of them. There's no difference of these ones, surprise, surprise, because they're exactly the same sculpt. That's not bad though, because the Daleks, as I say, are pretty decent in the 3.75 line. So firstly, taking a look at this one, that I do believe I may have named Bobatron in the original filming, but yeah, this is the average bronze Dalek. You can class this as any Dalek pretty much from 2005 onwards, so the same details applied once again. Nice slat detailing, nice barrel detailing, nice eye detailing, nice bulb detailing. Everything's pretty nice about this one, can't really go wrong. It's got the caster in the bottom there along the wheel, meaning that it can move all over and then can bend as well, and that can go up and down. And also we have a average Dalek as well. I do believe that this is a part exclusive to this line. I can't particularly recall. I think that in the original wave there was a rare chase black Dalek, that this is then this exact figure just once again repackaged in this set, and it is your average Dalek once again, just black, as you can see, because it's black and this one is bronze. You don't really need an expert to point that out to you, do you? But get the matte at the bottom and then the more shinier design at the top, much like how we did in the TV show itself. Get the pupil there, the bulbs there, everything else very, very nice. Random accessory things. We have a thing to build. Have you seen one of these before? Maybe you have, but this is apparently an exclusive thing. This is a Dalek hoverbout. So once again, exactly the same detailings at the bottom. We get this rimmed section along some nice silver paint apps, especially along the side as well. These almost like light section things, and a few details of a red and blue and black colour scheme, which to be honest, I don't particularly think goes very well. I think it kind of looks a bit awful, to be honest. I think we're meant to get a big Dalek patrol ship in this colour scheme at one point, the one that we got in bronze a few years ago with the Dalek, but yeah, that goes in there as so. We have a little computer control bank thing there, how exciting. And then we also put in these railings as well, because we know how much the Daleks do love a good bit of health and safety. So you have your Dalek hoverbout, which is of course modelled for the 2005 onwards Daleks, so in fact fly by themselves anyway, sort of defeating the objective of this random ship thing. But not gonna lie, it does look rather good with your Dalek in there. However, it still has the same flaws where if you tilt it backwards too much, it does of course come out. It would be nice if there was a peg or something in the bottom where you can safely put them in. But yeah, it's a nice little thing. You have to buy this set in order to get one of these, because as it clearly states on the box, it is of course exclusive. Oh wait, it's not exclusive at all, is it? This is basically exactly the same thing. This was in the previous Dalek time zone that we got. The first ever Dalek time zone that I do think we got, in fact, in the first ever wave. It is exactly the same thing, but bronze. So yeah, only the colour scheme is in fact an exclusive thing, and not the whole thing. And to be honest, if you want some more Daleks for your 3.75 collection, then this is probably a good buy, because as I say, for the price that this currently is on sale, you do get 3 pretty decent-ish Daleks, even though one is oddly orange. The 12th Doctor figure is just as bad as the original version. Although the costume is pretty nice, it still has some major flaws. If you're good with paint, you could maybe add in the red lining yourself, I don't know, or swap around the head with the other version with the giant eyebrows if you like that version more. But at the end of the day, it's still your average 12th Doctor figure that looks a little bit sad and depressing. And then we have Clara, which of course isn't from this story, it's just your random type of the Doctor Clara. Still does fall apart, not exactly very good for kids, but the costume is still generally pretty nice if you want a Clara in your collection. It's nothing really anything too new if you already have the single carded version. And the hoverbout, yeah, well, it's just a thing, isn't it, really? You can stick your Dalek Sec on it, or Black Dalek even. But yeah, generally a little bit of an average show on the figure part, that if you've got the previous releases, then it's nothing new whatsoever. So we've moved to a more exciting angle so I can actually build this thing, and possibly could be in shot. Apologies, I don't know if I am or not. But yeah, we're now making this thing. The instructions are absolutely terrible. As you can see, it would have been really helpful if they actually sort of labelled the walls as to what walls they actually were, as opposed to just the shape, instead of trying to do match the match on the different things, making it just equally as hard. So I've learnt from experience with these things that the instructions are not very good. So I started off, I did in fact start just before filming this, I did the base thing, there's the plastic thing, and there's that in there. A little bit puffy, as per usual. The figures will stand on that and then simply just fall off, because it tends to be a big bulge normally in the middle, especially when you put all the pieces back in. So yeah, that's that. On the sides, there we go, that was the wrong one, that was a good start. I have this one, whatever that is, my eyes are going mental at the moment. There we go. We now have 2 pillars in there, which should hopefully hold the thing in place. Clue, it won't hold the thing in place. We have these things. The thing that I've noticed, it might just be because I've not seen one of these in quite a long time, is that the cardboard seems to be a little bit more of a high quality plastic. Well, not plastic even, cardboard obviously, hence why I said cardboard at the beginning and not plastic. But yeah, it seems to be a little bit more glossy than usual. As per usual, nothing on the back, it's just your standard black. And then we need to move on to putting these things in. Oh, I did that a little bit earlier as well. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But yeah, we have this thing first, which is an explosion. How exciting. And then we have a wall thing. Next up, we put the other thing in the wall thing. I have found the little beady things that are incredibly annoying, so moving that out of the way and building the rest of this thing, I believe that is meant to go in there as so. The thing that I have noticed, I must say, is the design for this is at least a little bit more interesting than the previous ones. The previous ones being a old battered house, a horrible looking rusty submarine, and whatever the other one was, a Dalek thing. The Weeping Angel one was kind of alright. I need a little base thing for that. So yeah, this one at least has a little bit more of an imaginative backdrop, I guess. At least something that will look vaguely interesting on the shelf if you plan on not touching it whatsoever, as I'm presuming once this is built it will probably not actually stay together very well whatsoever. We have the backdrops all put together. I like the fact that we've got in fact a little thing on this that states adhesive tape not included. So they're already planning on, this is going to be very unstable, you're probably going to need tape to put this together. I don't think that was in fact included on the other ones. So if you think your things are unstable, character, maybe supply a small roll of tape. And we have the backdroppy things in, but they tend to keep on popping out, so that's annoying. Once again, a thing, much like the previous sets. Those stay in as so. And we have that bit. On to the next thing. We have this. This is the door that goes in the back. It was previously a TARDIS on the other ones, but I'm pretty sure they've realised how pointless that idea was. So that pops in as so. You can already tell this isn't going to happen whatsoever. I might just stick that in like that. I don't particularly know. This is oddly made of a rather flimsy card, as opposed to the harder ones, and considering this is still the backdrop, doesn't really help too much, does it? Yeah, it seems to be that it starts off pretty good, and that as soon as you start adding in more and more little things, which is exactly what this set does, then it starts getting unstable. Strong and stable, which I call extremely strong and stable leadership that we've got at the moment. If you're living in Britain, you'll understand what that is. There we go, look, we got the door in. How exciting. It's not exactly a door, is it? Yeah, next up we're going to have, oh joy, it's the balcony thing. This is, as I say, the unstable thing, because we're now on flimsy stuff, which once again, I do believe we have a... Or is that in fact... Oh yeah, that's even more uncomforting. This is in fact the floor the figures stay on, as you can see. Incredibly stable. And you can already tell what's going to happen when this goes together. So it would be nice to see a little bit more of a more intelligently chosen form of cardboard for the things that actually are meant to support the figures, because you can already tell this is not going to happen whatsoever. I dread to think, because they were going to release a TARDIS in this format, a TARDIS console room from Series 7, so I would literally dread to think how unstable that would have been. But we have a little fencing thing, so the figures don't fall off and hurt themselves. How thoughtful. Even if they did fall from this height, unfortunately they'll probably not break in any way. Pushing thin bits of card through thin bits of card slots, you can already tell something's going to give way here and snap. There we go, that's already bent. The thing is, if you were actually to dismantle this and put it back together again, it probably wouldn't work whatsoever. It's like a one-step thing. Maybe it's something that is literally meant to be thrown in the bin after the first few attempts. There we go. They've gone and done a little groove thing here. There we go, a little groove thing where the figures stand on. But when you put that matching up to this, that conveniently leaves a gap between the backdrop and the thing. Like if I just tilt it up so, that leaves a gap, meaning that basically the figures have about 80% more likelihood of falling through the gap behind doing a massive hole on the thing that's meant to hold your bleeding figures. What? Oh, there we go. Another thing was meant to come out a while ago. Oh, here we go. That goes in. It's basically the case of sticking it through the card until the card snaps. And then we've got the slots on this that conveniently line up with the floor below, that then conveniently line up with a massive plastic pillar in the bottom, which means that they don't really slide through too well. If that hole wasn't there, it would have been a pretty decent place to actually display your figures. But you know, it's almost like they want to make these sets inconvenient. Next up, what do we have? We have... Oh dear, I've just seen what's coming up. We'll get onto that in a bit. I've already heard about that thing. Then we have this odd thing, which is the vortex. It's an odd green colour. This, once again, is just a random thing that sticks out here to make it look like you can put the Dalek on it and then like they can look like they're flying. I don't know. Just looks a bit weird, to be quite honest. Got these things. Oh goody. The only thing left is the thing that I'm not wanting to do. This is the cylinder thing in the episode that like shrinks people down, and it's basically a giant tin-like thing. But we're going to have these small little flaps that this needs to then bend around and put it together. Do we need tape for this? It doesn't encourage tape for this. I smell lies. That goes in. As soon as you try to do one, the other side falls out. What are you doing? And then we're going to bend that side in as well to hopefully hold the... I was going to say thing in place. There we have it. That literally will not go together. I don't know what... Oh god, great, I've now done an ugly bend in it that wasn't meant to be there before. Excellent. The aim is for it to look something like this. Like a cylindrical thing, but these will in absolutely no way hold that together. So here we have the time zone all complete. Now firstly, I'm going to address the issue with the giant orb thing that is the size thing that shrinks them down because I couldn't previously put it together. Basically this whole thing is tape central. As you can slightly see on the sides here, there is a lot of tape, and on the insides there is even more putting that together. Would have been absolutely fine on the instructions if they actually specified, oh, you're going to need tape for this bit, as they did with the previous parts, but because they didn't, it kind of just makes it clear that they probably just slapped this set together and didn't really realise somebody's actually going to need to build the thing. But yeah, generally, the design is alright. As you can see at the very top there, we do get a little bit of a design of like a Dalek battleship thing going on, a little bit of a sort of galaxy in there, and of course at the very bottom, we get the spaceship Aristotle itself. So yeah, once again, a previous thing that I did mention is basically it does look better than the previous releases. There is a little bit more going on. I love the addition of the logo, the little space age windows, and then even sort of the inclusion of the little section at the side here whilst through. It's sort of everything going on at once, which is definitely something that is needed for these sets to make them look at least vaguely interesting. However, the main issue is, of course, of this thing is the actual constructability. As you can see, we have this little balcony thing, a little size machine here, and then we also have this little odd piece at the top here, which I still don't understand. The general thing is once you start applying more and more things to it, the more, yes, it does maybe makes it like a playset to an extent, is what they're addressing it as. However, it just makes it more weak. As you can see at the very back there is light coming through because the whole thing doesn't in fact sit together. If one piece comes apart, the whole thing just falls apart, which, considering this is meant to be a playset, main issue, because if they marketed it as a collector figure diorama display or a display backdrop, that would be absolutely fine, because then you could understand that it's not really for play. But the fact that they put it on the box as a playset means that it should stand up to the wear and tear of kids, and the fact that this can't stand up to the wear and tear of me simply putting it together and reviewing it, bearing it in mind that I'm not a 5-year-old child that will be basically throwing this about, throwing Daleks at it, this is going to fall apart immediately. And the fact that it's made of cardboard as well means that this is basically not suitable for children whatsoever to actually play with. To test out one of the levels of the playset to see if it is in fact stable, here we are putting it on a 12th Doctor figure, and he just simply falls down, and probably if you actually put it any further, he'll probably fall down this little gap here that quite obviously, as you can see, goes down to the very bottom of the figure set. And now bringing on the other figures for a little bit of context to show sort of the set in action to an extent, or at least as much action as set can actually get up to, being not very much. I'm not even going to lie, the Dalek figures actually displayed on this do look pretty good. The way that we have all the explosions and, as I say, the dark spaceship in the background, it looks pretty nice. And I also like the way that you can actually put a Dalek on the balcony as well. So if you want somewhere to display your Daleks, this might be a nice option. It's just a shame that literally the other figures, preferably the Doctor, well, the two main protagonists, can't in fact actually be displayed on this hardly whatsoever without falling over. One thing that I have found out though, however, is this little balcony at the top. If you do in fact balance the Dalek sorcery thingy with a Dalek on this little balcony, it does in fact look rather cool. I've not put any tape on that whatsoever. However, I'm pretty sure that by the time this take is in fact out, that is no doubt going to fall off, as it's not really very stable whatsoever. So I guess that looks kind of cool, making it look like it is literally flying. But yeah, generally other than that, it's not exactly very impressive, to be honest, and it definitely isn't what they say it is. So overall, for the Doctor Who Into the Dalek Time Zone and figure collector set, I'm going to treat this like it would be at recommended retail. Quite frankly, for the price range, this is the worst product I have ever reviewed on this channel. It is absolutely disgusting. £50 for some pretty average figures, 3 Daleks that are pretty well detailed. You can't really go wrong with them. If you want more Daleks in your collection, then by all means buy this set for the current price of £6.99. The 2 figures of the Doctor and Clara are, to be quite honest, very disappointing. The detail on them is incredibly lacking. Fair dues, the Clara figure is pretty decent. The face apps though, however, don't really look like Jenna Coleman whatsoever. They could be improved massively. The costume is pretty decent, but the 12th Doctor is just a drivel. It's a complete disappointment. The costume is incredibly boring. They've even forgotten the major part of the costume being the red lining, and don't even get me started on the face. It looks absolutely nothing like Peter Capaldi, and to be quite honest, I would have preferred the mad eyebrow version, much like how I did on its original release. The time zone itself is incredibly weak. The fact that they even compare this to a product that could be for a child audience is absolutely disgusting. This is nothing more than a display piece, because if you do any playing with this whatsoever, it will automatically collapse. Considering this is 50 quid, this is a quarter of a big chief figure, to put it into context. To see this set for anything above £6.99, I do not recommend it whatsoever. Yes, the figures on the inside are pretty decent, but to be quite honest, if you want them, you can buy them single-cardedly anyway. This probably won't be worth absolutely anything in the future. It's lazy, it's crap, and it makes you really question, does anybody have trust in character options anymore? Because for this to be labelled as a play set, for somebody that could possibly buy this for their child, fully trusting the company to actually supply a product that is safe and actually decent for them to play with, this is anything but that. So overall, one of the worst products that I've ever reviewed. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you all in the next review, whenever that may be. And guess what? It probably will never be a 3.75 review once again. I have absolutely no intention to go back to review any of the previous products, because let's face it, I've near enough reviewed them all already, and the likelihood of this line actually returning at the moment is pretty slim. So I can happily report this may be the last 3.75 review. But until they may return, maybe with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, I guess I will see you then. But who knows? So thanks for watching, I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.